Adventures in Grace, a Pilgrimage. How good it is to be walking with you for one more day. And as you know, this segment of the pilgrimage has to do with baptism. Baptism has something to do with knowing ourselves as uniquely loved by God. And that notion always reminds me of this story. The story involves my mom. The time of the story, I'm like 6 years old. My mom is 50 years old. I was born when she was 45. And we moved to a new western suburb, Plum Grove, near Arlington Heights. And there was a young journalist assigned to our little neighborhood, and her job was to come out and interview the new families, and then they would post it as like a public interest thing of like, this is the new family that moved in. So she comes, my mom is very gracious, has the lemonade, everything's going smoothly. The young journalist, who I'm sure this is her first job out of school, has all her questions. She's going through the questions. My mom is answering graciously until she gets to the question, Mrs. Johnson, what are some of your hobbies? And my mom like freezes and looks awkward, and the woman thinks she didn't hear the question. So she's like, well, Mrs. Johnson, what are some of your hobbies? Nothing. My mom looks scared. And the woman wants to help her. Knitting, square dancing, gardening, hobbies, nothing. And she's like, oh, that's okay. We'll just skip to the next question. So they finish the interview. My mom is really bothered about the hobby thing. She's like, I suppose I should have a hobby. I'm 50 years old. My youngest kid's 6 years old. I should have a hobby. And so for like 2 days, this is bugging her. And then she wakes up in the middle of the night, like with a start, and she knows the answer to the question, what her hobby is. And she can't wait to call little Julie. Like, Julie, have you printed it yet? Because I know what my hobby is. Julie's like, oh, Mrs. Johnson, that's so wonderful. I'm sure we can edit it and get your hobby. And what is your hobby? And my mom says, my kids are my hobby. I'm my mom's hobby. One of the reasons I talk about baptism so passionately is because I'm my mom's hobby. You know what a hobby is? Hobby is something that you spend your time and your energy and your passion and your interest and your curiosity on when you can do whatever you want. When my mom had free time, she wanted to be with me. I think that is such an unbelievably raw, beautiful, powerful, poignant metaphor for God. To be baptized is to know yourself as God's hobby. What does God want to do when God has free time? And where does God want to spend God's energy and time and curiosity? On you. What if we believed that? How would our lives be transformed if we knew ourselves as God's hobby? What a great thing to talk about as we walk today on our pilgrimage. What do you think? What are your hobbies? And we'll talk about our hobbies, and then we'll talk about ourselves as God's hobby, and then we'll end the day drenched. Remembering who we are, the beloved of God. What a privilege to spend one more day walking and pilgriming with you. So together, the church says, Amen.